Okay, good morning. It's survey day today. Today's the day we get all the results back from the survey. We're supposed to have the oil samples completed by the end of the day. The surveyor will put together the final survey. I'll have that in my hands and we'll see where we go from here. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's go see what happens. Okay, well, I've got it right here. 19 pages that determines our fate going forward, and it's not good. So I've spent the day reading this thing through and going through it in detail, and we got the oil samples analysis back, and we got some problems. So we've just made our decision. We're walking away from this boat. So here's the deal. I'll start at the back. The starboard side transmission has water in the fuel or in the oil. So that was marked critical on the survey or on the oil results. That means that the oil cooler, that's circulating seawater through the transmission, is obviously leaking and so shot. And the transmission has had emulsified oil in it, so shot. The engines both have a really high particulate matter, which is indicative of the problem of them not having any air filters on them. So I spoke with a mechanic. His name is Bill Simmons. I'm going to find Bill's website information. I'm going to put it down in the comments because that guy was amazing. He has no interest in this. He's not charging me anything, but I called him. He had been sent the results by the surveyor, and he was so gracious with his time. He spent almost a half an hour on the phone with me and basically walked me through the results of these oil samples in detail and was, just gave me his professional opinion of where everything was at. So, Bill, thank you very much. I can't tell you how helpful that was, and I'm going to, like I said, find your information, put it here, because folks, this guy knows his stuff when it comes to diesel marine engines. It's obvious. So anyway, the both engines were showing pretty high bearing particulates in there, the different kinds of metals that make up the bearings. And I believe it was the port engine had some fuel in the oil as well, which is indicative of a problem with the injectors. The genset in the thing, the generator, all of the above. It had everything. It had a really high amount of diesel in the fuel or in the oil, and also had pretty high metal particulate counts based, and as Bill was running through those, he's like, okay, so this is the aluminum, that's from the pistons, this is chromium, that's from the rings, this is titanium, or I forget what other metals, but he's able to kind of break down those analysis and tell you right where that metal's coming from. Some of it's coming from the main bearings, some of it's coming from the pistons, and basically he said, this generator set needs a complete rebuild, or the cost of a gen set, just yank the thing out and put a brand new one in. So based on those things and a few other things, there was a little bit of delamination underneath the bow of the boat, under the front foredeck, where the chain locker was. So there's some delamination up there, and there was a few other things. The refrigerator in the galley didn't work. The seller's broker told me, or said he told me that. I didn't get that anywhere along the line. And then we all stood in the boat trying to make the thing work, and he didn't say, oh, I told you that doesn't work. So anyway, I'm not sure what's up with him saying he told us about that. But yeah, so the initial survey, the preliminary survey, they kind of do a value of the boat, and it was right in line with what we were planning on spending. After looking at all this stuff, the surveyor came back and took a huge chunk right off the top of the boat. As it turns out, there is no autopilot. We thought it was an autopilot sensor, why the autopilot wasn't working. The dinghy, the steering in the dinghy is seized up, so dinghy's great as long as you're going a straight line. I don't know what happens if you have to turn, but yeah, there we are. So we're rejecting the boat based on that survey, and I gotta tell you, I'm bummed. This was, I think I told you, the kind of emotional attachment you start to get as you get into this thing, and having, been at the point where the decision was really kind of made in my mind, and I felt like we were just working our way through all the various steps to get us to the end. I was kind of even starting to run through scenarios in my mind of, okay, what do we do first? Where do we go first? How do I tell the rest of the family my mother is terrified of me getting a boat? How do I break this to mom? Things like that, So I was hooked, and now I'm going to walk away from this thing. So there's a whole internet on that thing right behind me, and everybody I talked to up there was like, look, this isn't the only boat in the world. I got to shout out to my broker, Michael Swirsky, my surveyor, John Baird, and Bill Simmons from, I think it's Simmons Marine Services. I'll find his, I'll probably put all three of those guys on here. All three of them have been absolutely outstanding and have taken me in their hands and carefully guided me through this process. And everybody's looking out for my interests, and I really appreciate that. And at the end of the day, while we spent a fair amount of money on this survey and whatnot, I feel like we're making the right decision, and we'll continue the search. So back to the search. Let's go see what Google can find us today, and we'll continue on with this process, because I'm not giving up. I'm just going to keep going until I find the right boat. So I'll be back. Thanks.